Supercab, safe, convenient, and affordable 24/7 transportation services across Jalingo and Taraba State.
Welcome to the broadcast of World News on Psalm TV, the pulse of the nation. Hi, I'm Ibrahim Minor Judah with the news. Trump's renewed interest in Greenland lacks respect, says Prime Minister. Greenland Prime Minister Mute Egede has criticized U.S. President Donald Trump's renewed interest in acquiring the island, stating that Trump has not treated Greenlanders with respect. Trump expressed an interest in acquiring the island during his address to Congress, promising prosperity and safety for the incredible people of Greenland. However, Egede dismissed Trump's comments, saying that Greenland deserves to be treated with respect and that Trump has failed to do so since taking office. Egede also expressed concern that Trump's actions have made people wary of getting close to the U.S. The Prime Minister's comments come as Greenland prepares for a general election. Egede has been a vocal advocate for Greenland's independence, stating that the island belongs to its people and should decide its own future. A recent poll found that 85% of Greenlanders do not want to become part of the United States, with nearly half viewing Trump's interest as a threat. Greenland's economy is heavily reliant on fishing and annual subsidies from Denmark. But the island boasts significant mineral, oil, and natural gas wealth. U.S. immigration agents arrest Palestinian student protester at Columbia University. U.S. immigration agents have arrested Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian graduate student at Columbia University School of International Public Affairs, as part of President Donald Trump's crackdown on anti-Israel activists. Kelly, who holds a U.S. permanent residency green card and is married to a U.S. citizen, was taken into custody at the university residence on Saturday morning. The arrest was condemned by civil rights groups who claim it's an attack on protected political speech. The Department of Homeland Security accused Khalil of leading activities aligned with Hamas, but did not elaborate on the accusation. Khalil's detention is part of Trump's effort to deport foreign students involved in pro-Palestinian protests, which he has labeled as anti-Semitic. The move has sparked outrage among students and civil rights groups who argue that it's an attempt to silence political dissent. The New York Civil Liberties Union described Khalil's detention as unlawful, retaliatory, and an attack on free speech rights. The organization's executive director, Donald Lieberman, stated that the detention is a frightening escalation of Trump's crackdown on pro-Palestine speech and an aggressive abuse of immigration law. Zelensky meets Saudi Crown Prince ahead of crunch-U.S. talks. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived in Saudi Arabia for a meeting with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, just a day before crucial talks with U.S. officials. The meeting comes at a precarious time for Ukraine as the U.S. has shifted its wartime policies, engaging directly with Moscow whilst cutting off military assistance and intelligence sharing for Kyiv. Zelensky's meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince is expected to focus on mediating roles in the conflict, including prisoner exchanges and hosting talks between Russia and the U.S. Saudi Arabia has played a key role in facilitating dialogue between the two nations. Tuesday's talk between U.S. and Ukrainian officials will mark the first official meeting since a tense encounter between Zelensky and U.S. President Donald Trump. The discussion is expected to center on a bilateral mineral deal and strategies for ending the war. Under pressure from Trump to rapidly end the conflict, Zelensky has been working to demonstrate alignment with the U.S., despite failing to secure vital security guarantees. Zelensky will not attend the talks, instead sending his chief of staff, foreign and defense ministers, and a top military official. The U.S. aims to assess Ukraine's willingness to make concessions to Russia to end the war. Trump expressed optimism about the upcoming talk, stating that the U.S. has just about ended its suspension of intelligence sharing with Kyiv. A framework for a peace agreement and initial ceasefires on the table, with Zelensky proposing a truce in the air and at sea, as well as prisoner exchange. However, Moscow has rejected the idea of a temporary truce, viewing it as an attempt to buy time for Kyiv. Singapore expressed extradition request for fugitive businessmen wanted in Indonesia. Singapore's law ministry announced on Monday that the city-state is processing its first-ever extradition request from Indonesia for Paulus Thanos, a businessman accused of corruption in a government project. Thanos has been implicated in a graft scandal involving Indonesia electronic identification card project, which caused losses of approximately $140.72 million to the state. Thanos, who has been on Indonesia wanted list since 2021, was arrested in Singapore in January following a request from Indonesian authorities in December. He is accused of colluding with lawmakers and government officials to secure a contract for his firm at an inflated price in exchange for kickbacks. Singapore's Laws and Home Affairs Minister K. Shanmugam confirmed that Thanos, a permanent resident of Singapore, holds a diplomatic passport from Guinea-Bissau, but his diplomatic immunity is not recognized. The extradition process, which is expected to take around 6 months if uncontested, will be expedited by Singapore authorities working closely with Indonesian authorities. The extradition treaty between Singapore and Indonesia, which came into effect in March last year, allows for retrospective application to crimes committed up to 18 years ago. Syrian Defense Ministry declined end to military operations against Assad loyalists. The Syrian Defense Ministry announced on Monday that it has completed its military operations against remnants of former President Bashar al-Assad regime. The clashes between Assad loyalists and the country's new Islamist rulers have resulted in over 1,000 deaths, mostly civilians, according to a war monitoring group. The conflict has been part of a larger civil war that has ravaged Syria for 13 years. Assad regime has been facing opposition from various groups, including Islamic rulers, who has been gaining control over parts of the country. In a related development, revolution forces have been advancing towards Damascus with the command of military operation announcing the expulsion or retreat of Assad forces from several key regions, including Suwadia, Quneitra, and Dara in the south. U.S. open to exploring critical minerals partnership with Democratic Republic of Congo. The United States have expressed its interest in exploring critical mineral partnership with the Democratic Republic of Congo, according to a statement by the State Department on Sunday. The DRC is rich in minerals such as cobalt, lithium, and uranium, and has been seeking diversified partnerships. The U.S. is open to discussing partnership in the mining sector that align with the Trump administration's America First agenda. The State Department noted that the DRC holds a significant share of the world's critical minerals required for advanced technologies. Congolese government spokesman Patrick Muyaya stated that there is a desire to diversify partners and that there are daily exchanges between the DRC and the U.S. The DRC has expressed interest in attracting American investors to develop its mining resources in a responsible and transparent manner. The development comes as the U.S. is also in discussions with Ukraine over a minerals pact. The DRC has been fighting Rwanda-backed M23 rebels, and a potential deal with the U.S. could provide a boost to regional stability. However, expert knows that the U.S. does not have state-owned companies like China, and no private American mining companies currently operate in the DRC. Therefore, DRC may need to explore more complicated ways of engaging the U.S. Clashes continue in Eastern Congo amidst rising tensions. Fighting between M23 rebels and pro-Congo militias escalated on Sunday in Yabiondo, approximately 62 miles north of Goma in eastern Congo. The clashes comes day after a nearby attack left a significant civilian death toll, which estimates suggesting between 40 and 70 civilians were killed. The Rwandan-backed rebel group M23 has been gaining control of mineral-rich eastern Congo since the start of the year. The group's expansion into new territories provide opportunities to acquire more mining revenue, analysts say. M23 rebels aim to seize power in Congo capital Kinshasa, accusing the government of failing to integrate Congolese Tutsi into the army and administration. In a related development, the U.S. State Department expressed interest in exploring critical mineral partnerships with Congo. This comes after a Congolese senator proposed a mineral for security deal, highlighting Congo's rich reserves of cobalt, lithium, and uranium. China vows to strengthen ties with Canada based on mutual respect. China has expressed its commitment to growing bilateral relations with Canada on the basis of mutual respect and equality. This announcement comes after Mark Carney's victory in the leadership race to head Canada's ruling party and become the next prime minister. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning congratulated Carney on his win and urged Canada to work with China to promote improvement and development of relations. Mao emphasized the importance of Canada's adhering to an objective and rational understanding of China and pursuing a positive and pragmatic policy towards China. However, the announcement was overshadowed by Beijing's recent imposition of tariff on over $2.6 billion worth of Canadian agricultural and food products. This move was in retaliation against levies Ottawa introduced in October, which included 100% and 25% import duties on China-made electric vehicles and steel and aluminum products. Mao defended China's countermeasures as legitimate and reasonable, calling on Canada to correct its wrong practices and provide a fair, non-discriminatory, and unpredictable environment for the two countries' enterprises. The development of China-Canada relations is crucial, especially as it marks the 55th anniversary of diplomatic relationship and the 20th anniversary of their strategic partnership next year. China has consistently viewed and handled China-Canada relations from a strategic and long-term perspective, emphasizing the importance of mutual respect, equality, and cooperation. Iran open to talks with U.S. over nuclear programs concerning United Nations mission, says. Iran has signaled its willingness to engage in negotiations with the United States to address concerns over the potential militarization of its nuclear program. The country's UN mission stated in a post on X on Sunday. The statement came a day after Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei reiterated Iran's refusal to negotiate on the U.S. polling. However, the U.S. mission clarified that while discussions on military-related concerns could be considered, any talks aimed at dismantling Iran's peaceful nuclear program were off the table. If the objective of negotiation is to address concerns vis-à-vis any potential militarization of Iran's nuclear program, such discussions may be subject to consideration, the mission stated. However, should the aim be the dismantlement of Iran's peaceful nuclear program, such negotiations will never take place. Kanemi, speaking to the state media on Saturday, accused the U.S. of making unreasonable demands. They are bringing up new demands that certainly will not be accepted by Iran, like our defense capabilities, missile range, and international influence, he said. The U.S. has expressed interest in renewed talks with Iran, with President Donald Trump recently stating in a Fox Business Network interview that he has sent a letter to Iranian leaders proposing negotiations. Washington and its allies fear Iran is approaching nuclear weapons capability, a claim that Tehran has repeatedly denied, maintaining that its nuclear activities are solely for peaceful purposes. Trump has reinstated the maximum pressure campaign from his first term in office, aiming to isolate Iran economically and reduce its oil exports. His administration previously withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal, which had imposed restrictions on Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief. Following the U.S. withdrawal in 2018, Iran significantly expanded its nuclear program beyond the deal's limit. Meanwhile, the head of the UN nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, has warned that time is running out for diplomatic efforts to rein in Iran's nuclear advancement. Tehran, however, insists its activities remain peaceful and compliant with international regulations. U.S. has just about ended pause on Ukraine intelligence sharing, says Trump. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Sunday that the United States has just about ended the suspension of intelligence sharing with Ukraine. The decision comes ahead of key talks between the U.S. and Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia. When asked about lifting the suspension, Trump responded, "We just about have. The pause in intelligence sharing was initially disclosed by CIA Director John Ratcliffe last Wednesday, putting additional pressure on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to engage in peace talks with Russia. The suspension has raised concerns that it could weaken Ukraine's defenses against Russian missile attacks. In addition to security discussions, the upcoming talks in Jeddah will also focus on the minerals agreement between Washington and Kyiv. Trump expressed confidence that Ukraine will sign the deal, which will grant the U.S. access to certain mineral resources. However, he emphasized that he expects Ukraine to demonstrate stronger commitment to peace negotiations that will sign the minerals deal. But wanted to want peace, they should ensure it to the extent they should, Trump stated. U.S. orders non-emergency personnel to leave South Sudan amid security concern. The United States has ordered the departure of non-emergency government personnel from South Sudan due to escalating security concerns, the State Department announced on Sunday. Armed conflict is ongoing and includes fighting between various political and ethnic groups. Weapons are readily available to the population, the State Department said in its advisory. The move comes amid rising tension in South Sudan, where the United Nations Human Rights Agency warned on Saturday that increasing violence. Russia expels 2 British diplomats amid efforts to restore U.S. ties. Russia expelled 2 British diplomats accusing them of espionage and subversive activities in a move that further strains its already tense relations with Europe. The decision comes even as Moscow negotiates with Washington to restore diplomatic staffing levels at the respective embassies. The Russian Federal Security Service, FSB, claimed that the diplomat provided false information when obtaining permission to enter the country and had engaged in intelligence operations that threatened Russia's security. The Russian Foreign Ministry has since summoned a British embassy representative regarding the expulsions. There have been no immediate response for the British embassy, which has previously denied similar allegations against its diplomats in Moscow. The moves add to the deterioration of UK-Russia relations, which has reached post-Cold War lows since the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. The expulsions came amid heightened tension between London and Moscow. The British government, under Prime Minister Keir Starmer, has continued its military support for Ukraine, with recent statements suggesting the possibility of British troops and aircraft being deployed as part of a future peacekeeping force, an idea that angered Russian officials. Russian forces gain ground in Kursk, encircling the Ukrainian troops. Russian forces continued their advance in the Kursk region on Monday, calling behind Ukrainian forces as part of a major encirclement operation. This development threatens to trap thousands of Ukrainian soldiers, forcing them to either flee or surrender in western Russia. The Russian advances come as Ukraine prepares for crucial talks with top U.S. diplomats in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. U.S. President Donald Trump is pushing for a swift end to the war, adding pressure to the negotiations. Ukrainian troops has initially seized around 1,300 square kilometers of Russian Kursk region in August, aiming to gain a bargaining chip in future negotiations. However, by mid-February, Russia has reclaimed at least 800 square kilometers of territory in Kursk. The Russian offensive has raised concerns about Ukraine's next move, with the spring tour turning roads into more tracks. Ukraine faced a difficult decision: withdraw from Kursk and risk a disorderly retreat under intense Russian fire, or maintain its position and risk being encircled. The situation remains volatile, with Ukrainian forces repelling 27 attacks by Russian forces along the Kursk front line on Sunday, according to the General Staff of Ukraine Armed Forces. Iraq faces energy crisis as U.S. end waiver for uranium imports. Iraq is scrambling to find alternative energy sources after the U.S. rescinded a waiver allowing the country to pay Iran for electricity. The move, part of President Donald Trump's maximum pressure campaign against Iran, has left Iraq with no immediate alternative to compensate for the lost energy imports. Three energy officials warned that this will cause significant problems in providing enough electricity to meet domestic consumption, especially during the summer months. To mitigate the impact, the Iraqi government has started implementing urgent measures to reduce the effect of the U.S. decision on the country's power supply. Iraq relies heavily on Iranian energy imports, which will now be cut off. The country's electricity ministry is working to find new sources of energy, but this will take time. In the meantime, Iraq's power generation capabilities will be severely impacted. Experts suggest that Iraq's energy crisis will have been avoided if the country has invested more in its own energy infrastructure. Despite having significant oil and gas reserves, Iraq has struggled to develop its energy sector due to corruption, inefficiency, and political instability. The U.S. decision to end the waiver has put pressure on Iraq to find new energy sources quickly. The country is exploring options, including deals with other countries, but it remains to be seen how quickly these alternatives can be implemented. Philippines Duterte says he is ready to accept arrest if ICC issues warrants. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has expressed his willingness to accept arrest if the International Criminal Court (ICC) issues a warrant over his controversial war on drugs campaign, which resulted in thousands of deaths. Duterte made a statement in Hong Kong while he was attending a campaign rally for his senatorial candidates in the upcoming Philippine midterm elections. The ICC have been investigating allegations of systematic extrajudicial killings during Duterte's presidency. The Philippine government has indicated that it will cooperate with the ICC's investigation, despite Duterte's previous withdrawal of the country from the ICC's founding treaty in 2019. Presidential Communication Under-Secretary Claire Castro stated that law enforcers are ready to follow the law and serve the warrant of arrest if requested by Interpol. Duterte's war on drugs was a signature campaign policy that propelled him to power in 2016. However, the campaign has been widely criticized for its brutal method, which has resulted in thousands of deaths. The ICC investigation into Duterte's campaign has been ongoing, and the court's decision to issue a warrant could have significant implications for the former president and his allies. That's all for today on World News. Psalm TV is a 24-hour TV station. We are live every day. You can also follow us on Facebook at Psalm TV and on YouTube at Psalm TV Live. I am Abraham Minor Joda. Goodbye.